Hello and welcome to the Hooniverse and to a brand new video. Now imagine an intelligent parasite, a species with the most extraordinary life cycle, where humans become food and a fountain of knowledge all in one. A grotesque insect race that can travel the stars, surviving the vicious vacuum that is space. These are the WIRRN. These infectious insectoid aliens have caused huge problems for humanity across time and space, and have had run-ins with our favourite Time Lord a few times too. So let's take a look at the history of the WIRRN. Firstly, the WIRRN have been around for thousands of years, with the earliest sighting in the Sol system around 2000 BC, as this was the year a prison ship launched, being discovered by the 4th Doctor and Romana. However, this WIRRN was dead when the Time Lord and Lady found it. Now, it's the life of these creatures which is interesting, as the WIRRN native to the Andromeda galaxy are what's known as endoparasites. They use other species as living hatcheries for their young. They lay their eggs inside the host so that when the eggs become larvae, it emerges as a shapeless bright green blob covered in glistening transparent pustules of compressed air, eating its host as it's still alive and kicking. Now once the larvae has had sufficient nourishment, it slides away on a trail of secreted mucus, traversing all terrain with cells that can warp and change until it finds sunlight, as solar radiation is the catalyst essential for the metamorphosis, as after a few hours, this gross green goop becomes a ferocious WIRRN. Standing at over 2 meters high, eyes trained to see in the pitch dark of space, and mandibles that are sharp and deadly. The WIRRN were just instinct at first, a species traversing space, only stopping off at planets occasionally for food, fresh oxygen, and for hosts to breed. However, the hosts the WIRRN chose were usually dull, dim-witted herbivores, and their intelligence mattered, as the WIRRN larvae were able to absorb their hosts mentally as well as learning their knowledge, harvesting their intelligence. So as the WIRRN continued to travel, they left their native galaxy and entered the Mutter's Spiral, a galaxy home to the planet Earth. Now on Earth during the 21st century, the War Master and unit took down a group known as the Auctioneers, who possessed alien items and even led to an invasion of multiverse-conquering Cybermen. And it was after this victory, the War Master left unit a gift in the way only he could from this collection: the last WIRRN egg. Now how much trouble can one egg cause? Well, as Osgood, Josh and Sergeant Brundle attempted to fly the specimen back to HQ and deliver it to Kate Stewart, they hit turbulence aboard their helicopter, the case holding the egg cracking open on the floor, and Brundle touched it. Instantly, he felt agonising pain. The helicopter crashed and he had one word to say: WIRRN. Unit soldiers attempted to kill Brundle, but he was already changing. Meanwhile, Shana Siddiqui, an entomologist, was then recruited by Osgood via Robotic Raven and sent to work at a secret research facility known as the Well to investigate the egg, and in doing so, not only discovered it was the egg of a WIRRN queen, but also got infected by the single cell. Shana soon heard the voice of the WIRRN hive mind chattering in her head, and as her body was not only consumed but transformed slowly, and with the access to this knowledge, Shana and Osgood, who knew nothing of her infection, hatched the egg which released the WIRRN queen, who stung one of the employees known as Marcus and used him to grow eggs and farm yet more knowledge. Now as the queen fled and hatched as many WIRRN as she could, Kate Stewart and Osgood discovered Shana's connection to the WIRRN and quickly utilised it to find out what catastrophe the WIRRN queen's egg had survived to be placed in the collection. Shana dove into WIRRN history, much like we are today, and learned that the previous queen absorbed a mammal carrying a virus which killed her, and because of her psychic connection to her children, they all died. So, Osgood injected Shana with a virus from the Cryo Archive, which killed the queen and those that she and her children infected, but Shana is saved by Unit's antidote. The WIRRN's infestation was halted on Earth, but so many died and unfortunately it had to be covered up. However, Shana still remains at the Well, working for Unit, and appears as a hologram recreating her original body, rather than letting people see her true appearance, because as much as her mind may be human, her body is that of a WIRRN. So by the 40th century, a large number of WIRRN had left the Andromeda Galaxy behind and farmed much intelligence, so much so they tried a different approach: invasion. As they gained new hosts, they were able to learn about political structure, allowing them to plan this out. So as they reached Earth, the WIRRN were able to infect Miles Mason, a Space Security Service xenobiologist. Using his connections and scientific skills, they were able to produce drugs to be given to the athletes of the 39-99 Intergalactic Olympic Games, which would infect them. Those who were not infected immediately would then return to their home planet and infect others. The Swarm Queen of the WIRRN then moved to Mikaba's world, a planet that had been constructed and controlled by the SSS to better organise the swarm. However, the Space Security Service was prepared and ready to drive back the larvae, as what were these WIRRN if nothing but bugs to the soldiers who had fought the Daleks? The swarm was eventually stopped when the 8th Doctor intervened and confronted the Queen, exposing the wiring of Mikaba's world and electrocuting her. And despite this planet-sized bug zapper, some of the larvae escaped and stole a ship, instinctively escaping back to the Andromeda Galaxy. Now, thousands of years later, humanity continued its expansion throughout the cosmos until it reached the Andromeda Galaxy and started to expand there, destroying the WIRRN breeding colonies on Andromeda Gamma Epsilon in the process, igniting a 1,000-year-long conflict between the two races, humanity and WIRRN. The result of this was the WIRRN being driven out of their own galaxy and forced to drift into the cold, cruel universe. Now, one queen ended up in Mutter's spiral and discovered the frozen survivors of an eradicated Earth in a space station known as the ARK. Though the queen was killed by a security device, it was able to implant an egg in one of the humans named June. Now, June was consumed and eventually the larvae escaped and was able to infect Lazar, better known by his nickname Noah. The WIRRN intended to use the sleeping humans in cryosleep as a food source and to gain their advanced knowledge to help take over the empty Earth. A seemingly endless army of WIRRN could be created, but as Noah's infection persisted, his will prevailed. Now, Noah slowly transformed into the form of the WIRRN, and as the 4th Doctor, Harry and Sarah Jane investigated the station, the TARDIS team dodged WIRRN attack and other crew members were consumed. Noah laid a trap for the WIRRN. He set the ARK's transport ship to explode and led the WIRRN into the craft before detonating it, sacrificing himself as the transformation completed. It was many years later, as the ARK decayed in the sky, humanity returned to the solar flare-ravaged Earth. Now, unfortunately for humanity, the insects were smart because, as a contingency, the WIRRN infected Earth's gene banks of insects. So, when Mombasa Station was set up to access the gene banks, they accidentally released the dormant WIRRN. They wanted to recalibrate the gene spooler to create more WIRRN queen grubs, but were thwarted by a small research team. And by the year of 16127, 4 decades had passed since the colonists of the Nerva Beacon ARK returned to repopulate their once devastated planet Earth, and it's safe to say the chosen few are finding the business of survival tough. Far beyond the sterile safety of sanitized Nerva City, transmat scientist Roger Butchman had brought his family to an island surrounded by what many had once called Loch Lomond, hoping to re-establish the colony he was forced to abandon many years before. But something else resided in the loch, the WIRRN, frozen in the water, slowly but surely making a return, smashing through the ice and attacking, even using the transmat system to clone themselves. But they were soon stopped by the 6th Doctor, who manipulated the transmat system to his benefit. Meanwhile, human colonists in WIRRN space began sacrificing one person to have WIRRN queens gestated inside them, and due to the influence of human minds on the queens, peace was achieved between the two species. And following the expansion of Galsec, the human colony planet, and their takeover of these existing colonies, the sacrifices were ended, and as a result, a huge and vicious war erupted between the humans and the WIRRN once more, lasting generations. A war in which the 8th Doctor and Lucy Miller found themselves hurtling through one of the fierce battles in an electrified escape pod, discovering the story of the humans' past WIRRN-related sacrifice. And it's after all these thousands of years and crazy events, infections, infestations and wars, some say an unnamed human time traveller found out that the last WIRRN egg was stolen. Where it went, nobody knows. But maybe it could have been added to a collection of some kind, an insect infection waiting to strike one more time. So that is the history of the WIRRN, a classic Doctor Who foe and one I'd love to see a reimagining of in the new series, but for now that is the story of these persistent aliens with their aim of infection infestation and growing in number. They grow in intelligence and they want to take over as much space as possible. They're not necessarily evil, but I think it's safe to say they're far from good. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, drop your thoughts in the comments below, and of course subscribe to see more. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.